and gentlemen, Lynn Redgrave.
Well, being a world-famous rock star is just the sort of thing that a lot of kids dream about. And my special guest tonight was no exception. He started drumming when he was 9 years old. It was all he'd ever wanted to do. And for him, the dream actually came true when, by the time he was 16, he was on a world tour and well on his way to becoming a millionaire. He had everything: fame, fortune, a glittering career as the drummer of one of the world's most successful rock groups. And then on New Year's Eve, 1984, he was in a dreadful car crash that put him into hospital with injuries so bad that it seemed he would never play the drums again. Well, here to tell the story of his incredible fight back, ladies and gentlemen, from Def Leppard, please welcome Rick Allen. Rick, tell us exactly what happened at this accident.
I was driving from the Lady Bower Reservoir just up the A57 in Sheffield. I didn't really see this left-hand corner that was coming up.
What did you hit?
I think what happened, because of the speed I was going around the left-hand corner, I ended up rolling the car, and I destroyed somebody's very nice stone wall. Sorry about that.
How was it that you lost your arm?
The seat belt apparently wasn't clipped in properly, and it was the seat belt that actually came across my chest and actually severed my arm. So
were you thrown out of the car?
Yeah, I left the car and landed in a field, and I think my arm was left in the car.
So you don't remember this? You were in too much shock?
I was in way too much shock. I didn't know anything about it. Apparently, I was conscious for the whole thing, which is the thing that actually saved me.
Why was that?
Because my body went into shock, and I didn't really bleed, so that actually stopped me from bleeding to death.
And how did you get to the hospital?
Well, fortunately, there was this midwife that lived very close to where the accident actually happened.
God.
And she was obviously experienced enough, you know, in medical terms. And I think she packed my arm in ice because she was preparing for, you know, for New Year's sort of celebrations. Unfortunately, I messed up a few people's New Year. But as I say, I didn't know anything about it, so I was in a world of my own at the time.
So when you came to in the ward, did you know you'd lost your arm?
No, I didn't, because there were so many bandages, and my mind and my body kind of let me in on this whole thing very gradually. It wasn't something that just hit me, you know, oh, my arm's gone. It was over a 2 or 3 week period that you know, that I actually realized that the entire thing had gone.
There had been a point, right at the beginning, when you were still out of it, when they had, in fact, reattached your arm.
That's right.
And your mother had thought that perhaps things were going to be all right with the arm that you lost.
Everybody thought that, but I suppose because I was out in the country, you know, when I had my accident, and there were a certain amount of bacteria or whatever, you know, it was kind of a long shot, and I ended up getting gangrene in my left arm. But this was something that I wasn't aware of, you know, at any point during the time that I was in intensive care, simply because, you know, they kept me sedated. Apparently, I tried to leave a few times, you know, with all these needles and stuff.
We were wired up.
Exactly, and, you know, I'd try and get out of bed and sort of, you know, head off to the next show.
What sort of support did you get from your family?
Just constantly being there. My brother, he actually moved into the hospital, and...
Were you in a room on your own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he moved into to a room nearby, and he helped me a lot. You know, he did pretty much everything for me.
Was he really looking after you? I mean, brushing your hair and doing your teeth and
Amongst
things like
other things. Yeah.
How was that, to have your brother look after you in that way?
At times a little bit embarrassing, quite frustrating, but at the end of the day, you know, if he couldn't do it, then who could? You
Yeah,
know?
yes.
So I just felt really fortunate that he was there, and that he dropped everything, you know, that he was doing, and just came and looked after me.
How about your mum?
Well, my mum, she was always really supportive, but I think she probably took it worse than I did.
Did you think that you'd ever be able to drum again?
No, I didn't think I'd be able to do anything again. Not until my brother brought my stereo system down to the hospital, and at first I found it difficult to listen to music.
Why?
Because I was constantly reminded of what I used to be able to do, and I felt as though I couldn't really do it anymore. And I broke my right arm really badly, so in order to keep me from sliding down the bed, they put this huge piece of foam at the bottom of the bed, which I could sort of rest my feet on and push myself up if I needed to, because I was all strapped up with my right arm. And after listening to music for a few days, I realized that I could still play quite a lot of the parts from, you know, some of my favorite songs, just using my feet. So that was really encouraging.
When did you go home? Because you went back to your parents' house, didn't you?
That's right. The doctors at the hospital, they said I'd probably be there for a good 6 months, and I ended up being out of there within about 3.5 weeks. And I was so determined to, you know, to get out and do something.
You didn't allow yourself much time for pity, did you?
No, and I think that's one of the things that has really helped me, was the fact that I didn't give myself very much downtime. I never gave myself any sort of time to recover. From a mental point of view, I thought I was, because I threw myself straight back into work again. And from you know, from a work point of view, yeah, I mean, I was proving to the rest of the guys in the band that I could do it. But it's only really now that I realize that there's a lot more to life than playing drums in a rock band, you know. But
yeah.
Back then, it didn't seem that way.
Did you think that they might get another drummer?
When Peter Mensch, my manager, came to see me, I thought that was probably the reason why he was coming to see me. And
how did you feel about that?
well, that wasn't why he came to see me. He was more saying, well, we've been making this record for a year, and you know, we're going to be on it for another year, so you've got plenty of time to recover. You know, you just get yourself well again, and then, you know, see what you can do.
Is this the sort of loyalty that is in the rock world, or do you think this is because you're all guys from Sheffield who began so young, and so you're really a family more than perhaps most other groups that we know of?
I think it's to do with the amount of setbacks that we've had as a group. I mean, we've grown up together. You know, I joined the group on my 15th birthday.
Yeah.
And we've already seen a lot together, and we've grown up together, and we've had enough setbacks for us to realize that we're really strong as a team.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing that kept everybody together, and it still keeps everybody together now.
First time I saw him in hospital, I couldn't handle it. It was really, really odd. He was totally out of it, but he kept opening his eyes, like, and looking at me with this real heavy stare, and then go again. And then he'd wake, it was like something out of a Bela Lugosi horror film. And I thought he was looking at me as though it was like my fault, you know. I mean, I wasn't there, of course, and I was looking thinking it was frightening, because it was obviously just a bodily reaction to everything that had happened to him. It was shock, I guess. But I went in and I saw him, and I was there with his brother Robert, and it was like bite your lip time. And after about 2 minutes, I said, I've got to get out of here. And I just went into the bathroom and started crying, and I couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle it at all.
The initial determination came completely from him. You know, we were there, we'd comfort him, we'd try and cajole him through situations and stuff, but the bottom line was, what we did is less than 1% of the overall thing, because the rest of it just came from him.
I think me, Steve and Rick was living in a house together in Ireland, which is where he kind of, you know, prepared himself. He'd play 8 hours a day, you know, he'd be just this noise all the time, but it was great, you know, it was really good to see it.
He locked himself away. He'd asked specifically to be locked away in a room where nobody could hear him make the mistakes he was obviously going to make, relearning to play. We were very lucky that we had basic drum tracks down on tape, so we could carry on making the album. So the four of us were locked in one room, and he was somewhere else playing his drums, and we just let him get on with it.
A friend of mine visited me, and he'd been involved in electronics for a long, long time. He came up with an idea for foot pedals, and that was sort of the beginning of what I'm doing now. The theory behind the drum kit is that you know, I can use my left foot in place of my left arm, using a series of foot pedals, i.e. the hi-hat pedal, a kick drum pedal, snare drum, and a tom-tom, and then obviously, you know, my right foot playing the main bass drum. Normally, you know, a two-arm player would have cymbals and hi-hats in different positions. I use a series of 3 different hi-hats, very greedy, and everything tends to be centered around the middle part of the kit, and it just makes it really easy for me to play. Well, not easy, but easier. It was a matter of channeling the information that was already in my mind to a different limb. And wherever I couldn't play consecutive beats with my left foot, say on one pedal, I would substitute that with another beat with another limb. So I could imitate what I did before.
Your first time that you were going to perform, now you got back with them.
Yeah.
Where was that, after the accident?
We wanted to do a small warm-up tour before the last tour, which was the Hysteria tour. And we ended up in a place on the sort of southwest coast of Ireland called Ballybunion. And I think the roller disco was on after us, kind of thing.
Wait, at that point, did you have a backup drummer?
Jeff Ritchie now plays with Status Quo. The first few shows went really well, and I'd play a couple of songs on my own, and then Jeff would do the rest of the show with me. And then this one particular show we did in Ballybunion, that was where he couldn't make it. He had to go off and do something with Status Quo, and then his taxi was late getting down to the show. So it meant that I ended up playing more than half of the show on my own. And Jeff came up to me after the show and he said, "Well, I guess I'm going home tomorrow." And that was really.
What was the first time after that you played in England?
That was the Donington Festival.
How was that?
That was the most incredible experience, seeing, I don't know how many thousands of people, 80,000 people out there. And when Joe introduced me, it really, really moved me. And I ended up tears all over the place. And that was the first time I thought that maybe I could electrocute myself because I've got all these electronics all over the place.
And you're crying.
Yeah, and I'm crying. It's like, oh no, you know, give me a bucket, someone. But that was the most incredible experience, playing that show. Just every single person that was watching was applauding or cheering or doing whatever, and it was all for me. So, you know, it was a really powerful sort of feeling.
It must have seemed to everybody, really from quite an early point, that you actually had made a remarkable and full recovery. But did you, in fact, feel you were fully recovered, or do you now feel that you're fully recovered?
I think when I met back up with Stacey again, we first met back in 1980, and we saw each other for a couple of years, and then broke up for 10 years, and then got married in September.
Yeah.
That was a really good point in my life because of what I was saying about, you know, there being more to life than playing drums in a rock band. I suddenly realized that there was a home life, and tap dancing around Europe playing a tax game is not necessarily the way to conduct your life. And I think it was nice to actually settle down and get a bass.
And have a real home again.
Have a real home again, and that was really important.
Well, Stacey's obviously been a terrific, amazingly wonderful support to you. Was it difficult for her? She must have read the press and known, even during the time when you weren't seeing each other, that you'd had this terrible accident. Was that an awkward moment when you re-met?
It was always a bit uncomfortable at first, but then, you know, we ended up just being really good friends, and, you know, just being able to talk to each other in a way that I really needed. You know, I found it difficult to talk to certain people about what I'd gone through, and it was one of those things where I was constantly learning new things about myself and my attitude towards what had happened, and really needed people that I could talk to in a more sort of intimate sort of setting. And she was that person.
He's pretty much put a big smile on for the world.
Yeah.
And if anybody thinks that there is no pain, like, oh, he got back up and plays the drums and he can tie his shoes and all these wonderful things, he can, but he still has to face himself. He still has to look in the mirror. He still has to like himself.
Was it hard for you to look at your shoulder?
Yeah, it was really quite difficult. It was just that frustration of, you know, why would it happen to me kind of thing. And, you know, you see your body sort of bent out of shape from, you know, an accident like that. But I think over time, you start to heal in a really good way. I mean, I've been really fortunate. I've healed really well. And now I actually quite like, I like my physical appearance. I'm just, you know, really streamlined.
Move faster, in a crowd,
really.
right? Now you had to adapt to just a regular day, being you, minus your arm. What sort of problems did you have with that?
I suppose because I've been like this for so long now, to me, it just comes naturally, trying out new things. There are always ways of getting around a particular problem. And if you can't do it with just fingers, then, you know, obviously the old feet get involved. In the kitchen, it's kind of a place where I would probably use my feet quite a bit. You know, it doesn't sound very hygienic, but at the same time, if you clean and, you know, you're preparing food for people that you know very well, then I don't see any problem with that at all. I suppose because I've been like this for so long now, to me, it just comes naturally, trying out new things. There are always ways of getting around a particular problem. And if you can't do it with just fingers, then, you know, obviously the old feet get involved. In the kitchen, it's kind of a place where I would probably use my feet quite a bit. You know, it doesn't sound very hygienic, but at the same time, if you clean and, you know, you're preparing food for people that you know very well, then I don't see any problem with that at all.
Was it frustrating for you to begin with?
Yeah, because you know, your patience level definitely has to come up, and you know, you have to put yourself in a frame of mind where, you know, it'll get done eventually. You know, I've just got to keep going at it and try it this way or try it that way. I think you always look at an alternative. You always think of new ways of doing an old thing, you know, and I think it's easy to overlook those kind of things. You know, say if you've got two arms, you know, with me, I don't have a choice, so I have to look at something and say, well, there could be a better way to do that, or a different way.
Did you find that the left foot, because that was on the same side as the arm that you lost, did that kind of automatically lean toward doing the sort of things that your left arm would have done or had been doing?
Yeah, it did tend to go in sympathy. You know, it tended to have a lot of things in common with my left arm, and more so as time went on. And that's still true today, that, you know, for instance, I could never kick a ball with my left foot. And now, you know, I can actually play with either foot. So I think your body definitely compensates in other ways.
No, it's some years since the accident now. You're not wearing an arm, artificial arm. Is there a reason that you don't use one?
Yeah, I never wanted to sort of rely on something, you know. Every time I wake up in the morning, you know, pop in your battery pack and away you go, sort of thing. And then sort of 6 hours later, you know, you're out in the middle of the country or whatever, and you think, oh no, you know, I need another battery pack. You know, I left it at home. I would feel as though I was too reliant on something like that. And I always felt like I wanted to get used to the way that I am now. And I quite like the way I am now. So it doesn't bother me just to, you know, to be like this. Would
there be any benefit at all to you at some point in the future having one that at least you use sometimes?
If or when myself and Stacey decide that we'd like to have kids, then I think it would be good from a safety point of view.
To have something to rest the baby on.
Yeah, I think so. You know, because the arm would actually strap around my body, so it would be very well secured. So you know, I would feel a little uncertain if I tried, you know, picking kids up
when
with
just
my one arm. Yeah, you know, like, oh, whoops, there goes another one.
Do people write to you and ask for your advice on who've gone through similar things?
I do get letters that come to the office, you know, to the management office, and people tell me incredible stories about trudging, you know, a mile across a field after having, you know, accidents with tractors, this, that, and the other, and all they could think of, you know, was me and what I did, and that just, it completely blows me away. I don't. How
do you feel about it? Does it make you feel good?
It makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
And enjoy talking to people that are less fortunate than myself from a physical point of view, or you know, or a mental point of view. You know, we'll do you know, volunteer work. You know, at Christmas we'll go and visit, you know, the local sort of hospital and go see what we can do.
Which is something you perhaps might not have done before.
I would never have done that. So most people know what happened to me. What happened to you?
I ran a motorbike smash in 1988.
Really?
Yeah. He was sort of my hero. I thought, well, if he can make a go of his life, I can make a go of mine. You really made me just think there was something in it, like.
Is that so? So did you lose as much as me?
I lost it 4 inches above elbow.
And you find this thing easy to use?
Well, it's like a strap across your back.
Yeah.
And it just like, you just flex it to bend it.
Yeah.
And it's same movement to open it up.
Right.
But you have to lock it off.
Right.
You can open it up like and pick things up with it. Oh, I can't live without it. I need it.
Actually looks really good the way you've customized it. I like the wristband and the tattoo there.
Well, it's me, isn't it? It makes it look part of me.
Was it always that colour?
No, not really. It comes flesh coloured, but that's just really muck and grime on it.
What kind of things do you do with it?
Well, I can do anything with it. Anything you've got to do in your everyday life, really.
You know,
Peeling potatoes, like washing my hands, or hand.
I always make that mistake. I always say hands.
I can play snooker with it. I've got a snooker adaptation. Can do anything. Even got an hammer to go in it, like.
Really?
Yeah, you can. I can't really use hammer, but it's nice there to pose, isn't it?
What about your right arm? Is all well now with it? Because it did have quite bad injuries itself.
The last time I was in America, I saw Stacey's father, who happens to be an orthopedic surgeon, and he did some X-rays on my right arm, and he didn't really like what he saw.
Has it been under a strain from taking so much of the pressure? It's obviously doing the work of two.
I don't think it's necessarily from playing drums or anything like that. I think it's from water skiing.
Do you want water skiing?
Yeah, but unfortunately, my the ball, you know, that goes into the socket in my shoulder, is more saucer-shaped. It's not really round anymore. And I think over a period of years of playing drums and doing certain other activities, you know, physical activities, I think the hairline fractures that I've caused, little splinters of bone have come out, and it won't really move like it should. So what I'd like to do is, as soon as my manager calls me after the tour and says, well, Rick, that's it, you know, we're done for a couple of years, then I'd really like to go and have an artificial ball put in, which would give me a lot more movement than I've got now.
Do you feel that you're a changed person because of this accident?
I feel as though I appreciate what I've got. I appreciate my life more now than I did back then. I think things seemed a bit too easy back then, and it was also easy to throw things away, and have a bit of a blasé attitude about life. But after that, I think my priorities changed in a really positive way.
So is your recovery complete now?
That's a really tough question, because there are always going to be reminders. I think things will always come up, and you'll always
emotional buttons that'll be pressed.
I think so. You know how you think you've conquered one thing, and then something else will surface. It's more a process of leaving things behind.
Not forgetting, but moving on, then.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, Rick, you're obviously still fighting back. Thank you for sharing your wonderful fight-back spirit with us. Thanks for being our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Allen.
Next Wednesday, Thora Hird talks to Lynn Redgrave about fighting back against arthritis. That's at the same time, 7:30.